Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.
Well, good evening, folks. How we doing this evening? It is yet another Monday, which means it's CFN Live, and I want to wish everybody a happy Monday. If in fact you've had one, if you haven't, there's still time to work out the kinks. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I saw quite a few people getting out for the first time, getting the boat wet for the first time, wetting a line. I myself did the same, but it was nice to see some folks who spend a lot of time, passing off great comments to a lot of the posts that are done on CFN, and I really appreciate folks taking that time. But it's also nice to see you getting out fishing. As much as I love seeing you or appreciate you supporting our community, it's nice to see you guys get out fishing. So it was cool to get back after what was, and I'll get to that in a second, the Canada-U.S. walleye, which was a dismal affair to say the least. But holy crap, did we have a lot of fun. It was awesome. How you doing tonight, Steven? Nice to see you, my friend. Lloyd out in Saskatchewan is joining us tonight. It is, what is it, 5 out there? I'm going to assume, Lloyd, 5 or 5:30. I can never remember if it's 2 hours or an hour and a half. But Lloyd, always a pleasure to have you, Ben. Can't thank you enough for all you do for our community. Bob, likewise. Jim, look, all the notables. Speaking of which, keep up the great work, Steve. Our community truly appreciates your efforts. And I want to wish Walter and his beautiful wife, Lynn, I believe it is their wedding anniversary tonight, or if it was last night, I'm not 100% sure, but they are celebrating their wedding anniversary. And I think they've been married, 22 years, I think it is, 22, 24 years. I don't know. But Walt, Lynn, you guys behave yourself tonight. Richard, always a pleasure to see you, man. Thanks so much for all you do to fill up our feed on the Legacy chat, as well as give me ideas on content to share with our community each and every Monday. Sorry, this is happening as we speak. Oh, I don't know what that is, Steve. I apologize. Hopefully you can fill us in. I'm not sure what is going on. I hope it's all good. Corey's with us. How you doing, Corey? Out on the West Coast, where it's probably noon. No, I'm just kidding. It's probably 3. I'm going to guess 2, 3 in the afternoon. 2 hours. So I was right. 4:07 here. 4:07 in Oregon. And 35 years they've been married. Holy smokes. My word. Well done. Is it your anniversary too, Steve? Holy smokes. I missed that completely if it is. I knew it was Lloyd's. Did I skip your comment, Tony? There it is. Sorry, buddy. Happy Monday, buddy. How you doing? Thanks for all you do as well. Really appreciate the dedication you guys have for this community and everything that it brings and tries to do for the people that are a part of it. And if you love what we do here at CFN and you're interested in bringing some people in that may not know much about fishing, maybe they don't have an appreciation for fishing. They just want to belong to a really cool, kick-arse group of people. Give them a heads up. Let them know who we are. Let them know where we're at. And we'd love to have them. We'd love to have them a part of our community because you know what? there's a good amount of good people in the world, but what we need to do is we need to start getting them to gather. And the reason for that is as we gather, others will gather that want to be a part of a positive and uplifting group as we are. So nice to have you guys along. Joe, how you doing, buddy? I'm going to be heading up actually to the French River very, very soon with a bunch of buddies of mine. So needless to say, I'll be asking for some pointers from you in the coming days and weeks to make sure that I don't look like a complete failure like I did this past weekend. As I mentioned, it was the Canada U.S. Walleye Tournament. I was joined by my very good buddy, Moose Bertu, the king of walleye, the king of fun, I should say. But we had a fantastic time, and there were some notable CFNers in the crowd. Mikey holding up a beautiful fish. Mikey's always a pleasure. The guy's always got a smile. I don't think I've ever seen Mikey upset. Nice to have you with us, Mike, and a part of our community. It means the world to have folks like you a part of us. But yeah, funny story. So, Moose and I decided to go against the grain. And, with Sean Quinn, who's spent a lot of time on that body of water, we were talking about water temperatures. We were just thinking, maybe it's the river that we want to go. Maybe we want to head towards Fenland Falls. Just because it's so late in the year, there's a good chance that those walleye might still be in the river. And Sean certainly agreed with me, and he said, yep, let's go up and bang some rocks and see what we could do with some crankbaits. We were the only ones up there. There was nobody else up by the dam. And as I found out later, totally understand why. There were no walleye, lots of smallies. Heck, if it was a smallmouth tournament, a bass tournament, Moose and I would have done pretty good. We would have been middle of the pack, let's say, day one, based on the bag that we would have presented. But we caught 4 walleye, I think, total. Only one of them was inside the slot. The 3 I got were outside. They were unders. A lot of overs were caught. It was amazing to hear the anglers talk about how many overs were caught. But anyway, we were on our way back to the scales with our one fish. And at the last minute, as we came off plane, Moose said, you better go check that fish. Just remeasure just to make sure. And I said, I was pretty sure it was in the center of the slot. But yep, absolutely. So I flipped the lid. She was dead. Said, Moose, have you ever had the plug pop out of the live well, at any given time, sort of randomly? Yeah, it's happened a couple times. Well, this will be the third. And unfortunately, we had one keeper, but it was dead. So we would have started day 2 at -1. And as I said, when you see the freaking totals, look at the totals. Keep in mind, this is a slot limit tournament. 13, let's say 13 and a half to 19 inches. Again, I'm not exact, but it's a slot limit. So you have to catch fish within the slot limit. Well, I don't know too many folks that can catch 4 fish and weigh 9 pounds. And when I saw the bags come to the stage, look at day 1. And it was a miserable day. Miserable. Rain. I mean, it was typical walleye. You had a walleye chop. It was perfect for walleye. And those who knew where they were found them, found lots of overs. And again, very impressive bag, 9.22 day 1. I was speaking to Andy after day 1, and he said, what do you think will win this? And I said, well, if you got that many teams in the 9s, there's a good chance you're going to get an 18 to win. 16, 17, I think, has been reached before, but to get up into the 18 pounds after a 2-day tournament is truly impressive. So to Andres and Evan, congratulations to you two. And of course, everybody else that participated this past weekend. They took home a $10,000 check for their troubles. Very impressive, to say the least. Great run tournament to all the volunteers, Bruce, Thomas, and all the folks that I met, including Vita and Victoria and Andy. Fantastic show. You guys always put on a great event, and it was a great event considering the weather. And we want to thank you for doing what you do. But needless to say, it was a humbling weekend of walleye fishing for this guy. And I tried freaking everything. We threw everything. Well, that wasn't the only event that was going on. Of course, there was a Big Brothers and Big Sisters event that was happening down on, I believe it was, I want to say it was the southern end of Lake Ontario. I'm not 100% sure where this was actually being held. A lot of trout were caught, and this is a fundraiser for Big Sisters and Big Brothers. I don't know how many charter captains were involved. You had Real Knox, and you had Fanatics. How many others were there? There was a bunch. Daryl was there, our good buddy. You'll see a picture of Daryl Doucette, who was a part of this. But you get some kids out on the water. There's Adam Avery from Fanatics. You get some kids out on the water, and you introduce them to fishing. A lot of them probably will never get this chance, based on their lifestyle, their upbringing, their home life, and totally understandable, because not everybody has the ability to get out on the water. But really cool, as I said, to see this kind of stuff and this kind of effort put forth by charter captains that truly believe in the cause. The cause is, let's give kids a great day out on the water. They may not have the best life, they may not have had the greatest upbringing, they've got the deck stacked against them, but give them a day out on the water. And to all the charter captains that donated their time, all the volunteers that helped out, this kind of stuff is truly appreciative. So big shout out to them. Let's see some of the comments. Oh no, diesel spill at Little Lake in Peterborough. Reporter, so diesel is getting through the cleanup areas. Oh no. Oh, that's awful. Awful. Doesn't matter if you're late, as long as you make it. You don't have to watch us on Mondays. We truly appreciate those who do. But if you watch us throughout the week, a big shout out and thank you for those who do follow us, whether it is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way to Sunday. We love to have you guys a part of what we're doing. One thing I do want to mention too, of course, is Wednesday. We have a special guest that will be joining Danny and I. Truly, this is sort of off the rails when it comes to some of the content that we provide. But this gentleman, the champ, Cody, and I don't want to pronounce his last name wrong, and I know Moose helped me with this, but Cody is the champ, and he's fighting on Friday. There's a big event downtown Toronto, but he's going to take the time. And the reason is I got a chance to talk to him on Saturday at the event. Moose was talking to him on the phone and listening to his prep and why he fishes for the sake of mental health and just to clear his mind. I want to get this guy on. I truly want you guys to listen to how he gets ready for an event. The level of confidence that has, it's not cockiness, it's just confidence in their ability. He's a young man. I think he's 26. We'll learn a lot more about him on Wednesday, but really looking forward to this conversation. So this is going to be on Wednesday at 8 with Danny. It's the Power Hour, and I'm really looking forward to having a chat with this guy. The 20 minutes that we spoke on the phone, totally intrigued. So needless to say, that will be a great segment on Wednesday, and I look forward to that. Outside of that, I think we are done with what I have uploaded, except for, of course, our beloved panel. Just so you know, it is our 10th anniversary. We're going to be celebrating this all year. One other thing I do want to mention, too, is Mike Consul will be joining me probably next Monday to talk about the upcoming CFN Fish-Off, which is going to be starting on Canada Day. So you're going to start to see some advertisements upcoming. Of course, we're going to have an early bird draw, courtesy of Adrian's Custom Tackle, Ugly Boys Baits. Who else? There's a bunch of stuff. Artie's Jigs. There's a cool little prize pack that we're going to be putting together for all those who sign up. We're going to give away something that you are truly going to be able to use. We want to get this to you before July 1st. so that you can target all the species that you're looking for. So needless to say, it's going to be a lot of fun. It will be something to stand by, wait for, and get yourselves ready to compete. Looking forward to that. Who else have we got here? How you doing, Pete? Nice to see you, my friend. Curtis Smith's in the house. Gaster or G-Star. How do you get the 10th anniversary? Wow, that's actually very, very interesting. So the 10th anniversary jersey, which of course is this wonderful beaut. I will get you in touch with our good buddy Walt. He will be able to walk you through. This is an incredible design that our good buddy Walt put together. Can't thank him enough. And of course, he's celebrating his anniversary with his beloved wife right now. I'm sure they're out to dinner, but I will make sure to get you in touch with our good buddy Walt. So reach out to me, DM me, as they say, and I will make sure to get you in touch with Walt, and we will get one of those on your back. Also, we have, who else have we got? We got Ed McKenzie here as well. Nice to see you, Ed. Rob's in the house. And of course, Eve was out fishing this weekend as well. Nice to see that. Nice to see you folks getting out and enjoying the water. That's what it's all friggin' about. One other thing too, because it is Monday, it would not be a typical Monday if we did not talk about the upcoming CFN retreats. August 10th to the 16th, we have only 2 beds left. Only 2 beds left at Horwood Lake Lodge, August 10th to 16th. Love to see you folks there. There's only 2 beds available, so make sure you reach out to Warren and Doris, get your butt booked in a bed. And it is Monster Monday, and it wouldn't be a Monster Monday without talking about Camp McIntosh. You know what? Let's let the video do the talking. And that is the price, September 24th to the 28th. There is still spots available. Love to have you. $820 per angler is the cost. It is going to be a great week of fishing, fun, and food. And if you are interested in joining us, please reach out to Andre and Tracy. Get your butt booked in a bed. As I said, there's still spots available. Love to have you up there. It's going to be yet another great event. We always have a lot of fun. So make sure if you are interested in joining us that you reach out to Andre and Tracy and get her done. We got the one and only Big Jim McLaughlin coming up right after his opening, his intro. I love it.
When he was born, he tried to reel in the umbilical cord. Bass named him as their personal best. His power pole came with a stripper. Forward-facing sonar uses him to find fish. Chuck Norris is his co-angler. He is the most interesting fisherman in the world. Stay fishing, my friends.
He sure is.
Yo.
Oh, we got a new view of you, too.
Well, my computer has given it up again.
Oh, no.
It's like 4 times in like 2 months or 6 weeks. It was working fine. I sent like 20 emails this morning, did a whole bunch of stuff. Went to Kingston to pick up the groceries at Walmart. We ended up leaving. There was a 3-hour wait after they told us they'd be ready by 4. So Tammy went in and canceled the whole thing. They're just lost. It's scary.
Oh,
So,
man. Unreal.
but it's what it is.
It is true enough. Yeah, absolutely. Well, as always, Jim, I thank you so much for being able to join us like you do every Monday. And again, you have so much to share, so much to inform us, educate, and just fill our Mondays, which sometimes aren't the greatest. Let's be honest.
Well, this
Mondays
wasn't the
aren't
greatest one
great.
for me. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Jim, I got to ask, you've been a part of the Canada-US Wally. You've been up there supporting it, and all the years that you can think back that it was a 2-day tournament, do you ever remember it when it was a slot limit tournament? Do you ever remember an 18-pound bag coming to the weigh scales?
It's hard to say. It's a game of luck, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, you can catch 4 fish that are 18 and 3/4 inches, or you can catch 4 that are 18 and have more weight than the 18 and 3/4 inch ones,
Yeah.
My claim to fame up there was coming second and winning big fish each day. Had an 8-pounder on day 1 and a 9-pounder on day 2.
Now, Jim, again, you may not have heard before we went to the lead, but Moose and I decided to do something sort of against the grain. Based on the time of year, water temperatures and all that, there was some discussion about what about going up to the dam? What if we go right up to the dam? And I didn't think it was a bad idea.
No, because they spawn up there.
Yeah.
And then they hang around, but obviously they were gone. I guess it's what it is,
We literally went up to the dam. We were there by ourselves. We fell back to weed beds that we thought would hold fish that were around the 6, 7, probably 6 to 9 foot mark. Based on water, water temperatures sort of put us where we thought they would be. Didn't mark a lot of fish. As I said, we caught a lot of smallies, but that wasn't the target species. It wasn't until we got down to where the rest of the boats were. That
if you'd have practiced, you'd have been with the rest of the boats when you started.
Probably. You're 100% right. 100% right.
Yeah.
Because we got down there, we were marking fish. By that time, they'd been spooked because they'd been so pressured, so they were hard to hook. But I will say, a big tip of the hat to some folks that really did. And as I said, to bring in a bag of 18 pounds in a slot limit tournament in 2 days.
Well, some pretty good fishermen there too, eh?
There are some.
I mean, you know who Evan Kung is, eh?
Yep.
But he fishes in the Bassmaster Elites. So he's a good angler. Yeah. Even if he doesn't fish for walleyes too often, he's a really good angler. That's all there is to it. So you put him near fish, you'll catch them, man.
As he proved to all of us. But we did have, and I got to ask you this. When you had live wells, when live wells were part of boats, did you ever have a situation where you were heading towards the weigh scale, flipped the lid on the live well, and noticed there was no water in it and all your fish were belly up?
I didn't have it. I had an instance in GM Pro Bass on the Pro-Am on the Bay of Quinte, and I would have won if the guy that I had as a non-boater would have put the plug in right. Because we got back and 3 of the 6 fish were dead. We're fished for a 6-fish limit back then. And 3 of the 6 were dead. I stopped about halfway back just to check, as I always do. And there was no water in it. And it was a really bad day weather-wise, so they were getting thrashed around. And when I get the half-pound penalty for each 3 fish was £1.5 pound off, and I had lost by 4 ounces. Oh, yeah, without those fish. Yeah, that guy apologized to me for days. He phoned me and he left messages. We didn't have cell phones yet, so I'd get home and it'd be messages on the answering machine, eh? He felt so bad. He said, "What can I do to make it up for you?" I said, "Send me a check for 10 grand. So, no, it's what it is.
Well,
Stuff
I've never
happens.
known you won to pull punches. So yeah, I would have expected that kind of answer.
He was a good guy. I think I told you about that guy. The first day he showed up the first day and he told me, I gotta go as soon as we weigh in. I gotta leave. I'll pull the boat out and just leave you. Okay. I said, yeah, fine. He said, I go to a wedding in Toronto and we were in Quinte. And he says to me, He says, yeah. He says, well, he says, I'm Italian, so I have to show up, or my dad'll disown me. And
Mm.
he shows up at the boat launch to meet me. They roll him out of a car at like 5:15 in the morning.
Oh,
So he never went to bed. So he just he laid in the boat and puked all day.
oh boy.
He spent more time. He was holding the rails, like it wasn't nice. He said he would take care of the fish, like all the ones I caught were the ones in the live well, right? He said he'd take care of the fish. I said, well, that's good. So I'd hand them to him, and I'd be terrified he was going to drop them before he'd put them in the live well. But he got them all in, but he didn't put the plug in right. So
Well, the plug was in. I can say that because when I did put that fish in the water or in the live well, there was lots of water right up to the rim. But unfortunately, I guess with all the bouncing, or I don't know, it just popped
it
out. And
happens.
by the time we got back, Moose and I looked at one another, and well, we got some decision making to do, dude, because we're going to be starting day 2 with the -1 if we weigh this thing in.
Go home and cut the grass.
Go home and cut the grass, indeed, buddy. Yeah, cut your losses. That's what we did. Charles, to your point, dam water is usually cold just because of the way the water comes out underneath it. Would have expected that, but it was 55, and again, like that, it was like ambient. It was great temperature. It was the kind of temperature that you're looking for.
Were they all on a flat? The boats fishing? Yeah, the fish were already going to their early summer stuff. Yeah,
Which I would have expected last year, Jim, because we were a little bit ahead of schedule. This is kind of on par to what it should be, but again, these fish, they're creatures of habit, and where they should be is where they were, and it was interesting. But we took a gamble, and it didn't pay off. So,
hey, you know what happened to me coming home from Kingston tonight? I heard on the news that we're just leaving, and the guy in the news says he put a guy on live, and he was talking to him, and he was on the 401 by Montreal Street,
Yeah,
which is one before me. And he said, I've been sitting for half hour, haven't moved. So I just immediately looked straight ahead, went over the 401 and went home through the back,
yeah.
And we got about 10 clicks above the 401, and I'm driving along, and I look over in the field, and I thought, the heck's that? It's a great big black thing standing there. And all of a sudden it's brought up its head and looked at me, and it was a bear.
No.
Yeah, that's the first bear I've seen in several years down here. There used to be one down by Gananoque. In fact, this spring there's been one in Gananoque all spring, ravaging garbage cans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a young. As soon as it sees anybody, it's gone. I guess it was from last year.
Yeah.
But they had a warning out about it and everything else, and told people if you see it, just stay in the house. Don't go out to pet them.
Yeah, it's actually a bear. It's not Big Jim. It's a bear.
No, this thing that was in the field, I bet you we were pound for pound. I wouldn't want one of its paws across my head, though.
Well, this is it, eh? Like, I mean, you hear about these horrible stories of people. Anyway, I don't want to get into the details, but yeah, I mean, bears are devastating. If anybody's ever had somebody that they know of that's had a cabin ripped apart by one, you know how devastating they can be.
Well, I told you before, I think about seeing the grizzly bear up the Willow River in British Columbia, and I was like, I don't know, 30 yards from it, and when I saw its paws, when it stood up, the white, the ivory color on the nails. I mean, the nails were like probably 5 inches long, just hanging there. And when you think that thing probably weighed 800 pounds, so you figure it takes a swat at you. It's just like putting you through the old Vegematic, It'd just tear you right up. Because back at the boat launch where he was scratching the tree, that the lad that I was with had shown me, I reach up 8 feet. I can touch the bottom of a basketball net just if I stretch up, not onto my toes, but just stretch as far as I can. I can just tick the net. And I wasn't even at the bottom of where it was scratching. And it was it had scraped into the tree something fierce. Yeah, he popped up from behind we were down this logging road where they were cutting down these giant redwoods and stuff, like trees that are like 6 and 8 feet across. And he stopped me and he looked at me and he went like this. He pointed at his nose. And I said to him, "What, do you want me to pick your nose?" And I still remember him laughing. And he says to me, "No, smell." And I could smell something. Smelled like a dead mouse or something in a mousetrap, And just as I said that, he pointed and it stood up from behind a tree when it stood up, like a felled tree.
And that's
And
what
all
I've
you-
always been told about bears is you will smell them before you see them.
Yeah, and fortunately the wind was blowing towards us. Like
Yeah.
it was a strong wind that day. It was like probably 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't hear us, and but we smelt him, eh? But they're uh, they're pretty cool. He made no effort to come towards us. I don't think he knew we were there. He did sniff. You could see him sniffing, but with the wind coming from his back at 20 miles an hour or whatever it was strong.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have smelled us, and all of a sudden he just turned tail and left.
Interesting. Wow.
Yep.
Another thing that was interesting that happened this past weekend was, of course, the Miramichi Striper Cup.
Yeah, Chonger came second.
And I have to say, there is a very recognizable face amongst some of these pictures, but this is out. I believe it's on the St. Johns River, or sorry, the Miramichi. How stupid!
Miramichi, yeah.
Miramichi
Yeah.
River. But this is out in New Brunswick. They do this each and every year. It's they have a fall tournament as well as the spring, and it's amazing to see how many boats were involved. Not to mention the expo. The expo was huge. I couldn't believe how big the expo was. But have a look at how many boats.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I know several people that have been.
Yep.
And that, like Ron James invited me down. He told me, "Why don't you come down?" So maybe when I learn to walk again, I'll go down there.
Some incredible totals when it comes to the bags. Big shout out to Team Zale Outdoors for taking home first place. But I don't know if folks saw there, but I believe they got biggest fish on day 2.
Yeah,
So
they
took
did.
home,
Yeah.
was a $3,000, $4,000 check for day 2. And I guess that was split between the 4 of them, and they ended up quite high as well, and the second place team overall. That's phenomenal. So to Dave Chong and the rest of the team, congratulations, guys. You did us proud. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to try to see him tomorrow morning in Oshawa for a few minutes.
Cool. Right on. Well, give him a pat on the back from us. Again, for those who have never been out that way and never experienced it, it's an incredible fishery, the Miramichi. The St. John's is another river that's just loaded with different species of fish. They have a plethora of great fishing out there, and it's nice to see it come to the forefront with some of these tournaments. And social media has definitely done its job to make sure that the word gets out about the fishing that is available out there. So, again, big shout out to Dave Chong, who managed to bring home second, and Big Fish for day 2. Awesome stuff. We also have another event that's coming up very, very soon, Jim. I believe it's in Sealy's Bay.
I've heard about this thing. Yeah.
You've heard about this?
Yeah.
Yes. I am doing my darndest to make sure that I can make it for this, bud, because I really want to be there. It's an awesome event. Lots of kids come out and enjoy a day of fun. And I truly want to say this: the parents, I think, have just as much fun as we do.
Yep.
They love seeing their kids out having fun, but it's just to get them out on a dock, experiencing fishing, basically grassroots, old school type fishing with a worm and a bobber.
Well, they all catch something too, eh? There's so many fish here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all catch. Even I caught some the other night. I had to rough a couple of kids up off the dock with my cane. Give them a little poke there. Get down the end of the dock there. Let the old guy have the chair. No.
What and you're right. I mean, this is what did it say? This is how many years you've been doing this now, Jim?
I think it's ever since I've been here. I think it's 12 or 13. Yeah, 12.
13 years.
Yeah.
But again, like the number of prizes that you and Tammy put together, as well as other folks that donate prizes, lots of help. You get great volunteers that come out and help out with this event. But a big shout out to the parents. I love seeing the parents bring their kids and participate with the kids. Don't just dump them off like it's daycare, but they're actually on the dock helping out. It's just I don't know. It refreshes and revitalizes our faith in humanity when you see that kind of stuff going.
Most of the boys are going to come again. Gord Cliff, Pepe, the guys from Goldwing. There's a Neil's coming down from Petawawa again, and
right on.
Bunch of the guys. Yeah, his nephew Alex is coming again.
Cool.
So yeah,
always a good time.
Yeah, he'll be down here on Saturday, and Sunday night at 7:00 he gets married.
Oh my lord!
So all his fishing stuff will be for sale on Monday.
If it isn't already.
Yeah, I got a big note on the wall over here reminding me that Tammy's birthday's on Thursday.
Oh boy, how big of a note are we talking?
Big.
Okay, it's good. Good.
Plus, I have an alarm on my phone. I only
Wow.
forgot her birthday once. It was many, many moons ago, and I came home from 4 days of guiding with Rocky up in Halliburton, and I had to guide in the morning. And like I got home like at 8 o'clock at night, and that was the day of her birthday. And you're wound up from being away for 4 days, sleeping in a cabin with no electricity, so you could make more money instead of paying for hotel rooms, and whatever. And so I get home and everything else, and the next day, like it was like the biggest cold front I had experienced that summer. And so I said to her, I went to her, I said to her, I realized I forgot your birthday last night. I'm sorry. When I got home, it's just, whatever else. And she said, it's okay. I went down to Ottawa. I went to the big mall at Sail Around or at Bayshore there. I said, oh yeah. She said, I spent $400 on lingerie. I said, well, that's a win for me. That didn't go over big. I'll never forget that. That was not a good move.
She'll never let you forget it either.
Yeah, when she was younger, she liked fancy undergarments. So
wow,
it was That's a long time ago. That's probably those were the days. It's probably like 30 years ago.
Wow,
Put me down quick.
Now, Jim, I'm going to assume based on the shaking that I'm seeing with the camera, it's basically because you've got carpal tunnel syndrome right now in your hands from all the tying.
I've been at it. I'm bringing like 800 jigs to Toronto tomorrow, and here's some nice little ones that I made these just before I left to go and get the groceries for Chad Riopel. That black perchel with the orange feathers there. That on the Ottawa River is absolute killer. I got about 10 guys that fish walleyes on the Ottawa River above Ottawa, and that black and this right here, they absolutely they buy 30, 40 at a time from me. That right there, it's just killer. It works up there, and then of course he likes the regular old perches too, eh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He likes those a lot.
Yeah, I had that tied on this past weekend, and I did you proud by using it. I soaked the heck out of it.
How many smallmouths did you catch?
I caught two smallies with it. That's the two little dink smallies. But
excuse me, yeah. Nice advertising for me. Eh?
I'm sorry, I tried, buddy. I thought and even
saying that you caught dinks. Jesus. I'm going to Moose's house when I get off with you here. He's done.
Well, I'll tell you this: we did you proud by having fun. I think of all the teams that participated, I want to say we had the most fun. We had the music blaring. There was more laughing going on than anything else. It was a hoot, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed every minute of it.
So then I come home here and I throw all the stuff in the truck and all the empty rod tubes to bring back to Shimano and everything tomorrow. And when you kick a door open and it opens all the way and then it springs back that 6 or 8 inches.
Yes.
It wants to sit in a different position.
I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Just peeled the back of my hand off. You could see you could see the meat. There's blood stains all over the floor here on the floor. There's blood everywhere.
Jeez.
Lots of fun.
What you go through and sacrifice to come on here every Monday, dude. I will never ever be able to pay your debt. Not a chance. But I will say we certainly appreciate the effort. Holy crap.
People come on just to see what happened to me.
It's Jim's segment. Let's see what he's done to himself.
Oh my God. This getting old stuff sucks.
It does, yes, 100%. What's so you're heading to Toronto? What else is going on?
I got to go to Toronto, go to Oshawa, and then up to the mothership, and I got to come home. And of course, now I might go tomorrow afternoon when I get home. Run over to Brockville. It's only an hour.
Nice.
And drop my laptop off so I can get it back before the end of the week. because we're working on the summer edition of the paper. I was talking to Tim Allard this morning, and I got Gussie's article from him.
Nice.
And a bunch of he's been down. He's back up in the big lake there catching fish. Just like it's going out of style, eh?
I saw it with his young. It was his young son. What wasn't he out with?
No, he doesn't have any kids. That was the clients
Oh,
catching the crappies.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That was cool.
I wasn't sure if that was his own, but that kid was adorable. Whoever it was he had on the back
The little
of the boat.
Snoopy rod.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I'll tell you, we're definitely gonna have to feature that on CFN. That was just too darn cute.
Well, I know. When I guided, the number of people that I had that used to come in the boat with me, and they bring a couple of kids, and I just try to put the kids on anything they could catch,
Yeah.
And that was a nice thing about Mississippi Lake, you could always catch something in there. You give them a little rattle bait or a little weenie spinner bait or something. Like I used to give them those little Strike King 1/8 ounce elites.
Yeah.
They were nice and small, and they chuck them out there, or a little 1/8 ounce rattle bait. And at the end of the day, they've caught 20 fish, like crappies, bluegills, smallies, wallies, everything under the sun. I had a kid out there one day catch a 9-pound walleye. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Well, I guess
Pretty
so.
cool. On a little spinner bait. I thought it was a pike at first. Then I saw this big golden thing down in the edge of the weeds there, and it didn't go into the weeds or it would have been gone, eh? Wow. Swam right along the edge of the weeds. You could see the line that was going like the whole time. I'm thinking whatever this is, we got to get it in the boat, eh? So
Jeez, what a great story. Tony's asking, did you sacrifice yourself with what you have, your wound there, in order to gain that color on the jigs that you were tying there behind you?
no, sir. That's just all cheap factory stuff.
That's real red feather as opposed to blood stain. As you can say, blood, sweat, and tears went into those jigs if it was in fact the case.
I still have this piece here. That's where I caught it when I came in the door.
Oh.
So I was leaking pretty good. Then it really started to bleed. Scared Tammy. I said, come grab the paper towels for me. And it was dripping through between all four of my fingers. Just peeled the skin off. That's probably when you get older. Your skin comes off really easy.
Okay.
And it was fun. Look at it. I said, all the marks and the bruises on it. The truck door open and it just zipped back and stopped, eh?
Wow.
It just hit along the back of my hand. And I didn't even really notice it. It wasn't hard.
Unreal.
But it just peeled a piece of skin about the size of a loony right off the back of my hand.
Jeez.
So I stuck it back on, and I've got when you have a daughter that's a SWAN certified burn specialist, I've got the best stuff to put on.
Gotcha.
It'll be like a quarter healed up in the morning, eh?
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing how well it works.
Well, buddy,
Put some on my brain.
Yes. Well, we both need that work and that help. But I will say this: we'll give you some time to heal up. I know you're busy. You got lots on the go. You want to get ready for. So I want to bid you farewell. But before you do, thanks, Jim, for all you do for our community, for the industry at large, and of course for all those who continue to fish with your jigs and aren't catching dinks. We salute you, bud.
You're bad. Hey, everybody be safe out there. Enjoy, eh?
You take care, Jim. All the best, buddy. We will chat for sure.
Thanks to you for doing what you do too, pal.
Oh, buddy.
It's not just everybody around you.
Totally my pleasure. It's a team effort, and I'm glad to be a part of it. That's all I can say.
Sweet.
All the best, buddy.
Be good. See you soon.
Take care, man. We have Lawrence coming up right after a word from our sponsor. There he is, the one and only Lawrence. Gunther, how you doing, Lawrence?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Well, living the dream. I'm just trying to get this set up. My apologies, dude. There
No
we go.
worries. Yeah.
A little bit of technical difficulties, nonetheless. Always an honor to have you here, my friend. And I know you look all dressed for the occasion. So we're a little underdressed with you here.
Oh man, it's been an office day. Office day of zooming and teaming. You know, too many webinars. And all
Breaking
that.
hearts, I'm sure you were. Holy
yeah.
smokes. Good for you, buddy. Awesome stuff. How was your weekend?
No, it was quiet. It was quiet. It was good. It was good. Just getting the Bluefish news out. So that'll come out tomorrow morning. The May issue. So stay tuned for that. You know, for those of you who want to sign up for the Bluefish newsletter, go to the bluefishcanada.ca, and at the bottom of the page there you can register.
Beautiful.
No cost, no charge.
Beautiful stuff. Now, I know with that, obviously, you've got a lot of news articles that you can share. I don't have anything prepared. So you said right away, don't worry, Scottie, I got lots. So let's start. We'll hit the ground running, and we'll start right away. Where did you want, and what did you want to talk about first?
Well, first, I just wanted to talk about this International Association of Great Lakes Researchers. Now, they're it's a Canadian / U.S. organization. The executive director lives here in Ottawa. The headquarters of IAGLR is in Minnesota. And so they alternate between having their annual conference between Canada and the United States. So this brings together all the scientists from government, from universities, from nonprofit organizations, and even, for-profit organizations. Anything that has to do with Great Lakes, water quality, fish health. And I got to know the executive director, Jerome Marty, and he's just a great guy. We were at an IJC conference together last fall, and he's just a super nice guy. And I tell you, he's being challenged, my friend. He's being challenged with everything that's going on south of the border.
I can only imagine. And what is the biggest challenge? Is the biggest challenge just because the mood isn't that great? Like, we've got a little bit of the natives are restless going on. Like, what I can't even begin to try and explain how Americans are feeling with what's currently happening.
There's a lot of fear that these collaborative, formal and informal relationships between Canadian scientists and U.S. scientists are crumbling. And you see, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration laying off a bunch of scientists that have to do with Great Lakes water quality and fish health research. You see the EPA laying off people and their scientists. You see cuts to university funding and grants and research. So university professors and researchers are being laid off. The whole, you toe the Trump line or you're gone. It's got a lot of people scared in the U.S. for their jobs. So, a lot of people just aren't publishing results. A lot of publication bans on science, a lot of sort of gag orders in place on U.S. scientists right now. So it's a challenge to get the U.S. scientists to come to the conference this year. Just the registration fee is like $600-700 US. And so even coming up with that money to register, from your organization, to go to your manager and say, hey, I'm going to the IAGLR annual science meeting on the Great Lakes, and with all the budget cuts, right? So and I'm just talking the U.S. side, but there's a lot of fear amongst U.S. scientists not to step out of line, and to just keep your head down, stay at your desk, keep your head down, do your work, and don't draw attention to yourself.
I don't even know what to say. It's troubling to hear that. With everything that's happening, with the invasion of Asian carp. I know we're not supposed to call it Asian carp, but for those who understand it as Asian carp, it's Asian carp. But needless to say, there is a lot of things that are affecting our fisheries, our water, that we need to be outspoken. We need to think out of the box. We need to encourage. problem solving and brainstorming, and we're gagging people, like we're putting gag order. Like why? What? Why now? What could possibly be the goal of this? That everything's just sunny and 17 in the U.S. and we don't have to be concerned with anything.
That's sort of, the golden days, right? So, you see US websites, US government websites, and these agencies and organizations funded by the US government, their data is disappearing off the website. So all the climate change data, that's all disappearing. All the research on ice thickness, right, and water temperature, that's all disappearing because no one wants to draw attention to that, right? That there's no problem here. Get that data off the website. That's just fake news, and so that's coming down. So you've had a lot of Canadian scientists downloading that content off the US websites before it disappears. And we're not going to be able to make up the difference, right, on the Canadian side. First of all, we don't really have access to Lake Michigan, and we're 1/10 the size in terms of the economy and such as the US. So we're not going to have the horsepower to pick up the slack on all this stuff. And I mentioned this, I believe I mentioned this to you before too, that even universities here in Canada are telling their professors don't travel into the United States.
I've heard that. Yes. You mentioned that.
So that's putting a damper on it too. Now, I'm Bluefish Canada and the Bluefish Radio Show, we like to cover conferences. A few weeks ago we covered Watersheds Canada's National Watersheds Conference in the Haliburton area. We've been invited to cover the conference in as well next week, June 2nd to the 6th in the States for the IAGLR conference. We're going to do it virtually. If there's an option to do it virtually, we're not going to be there, hobnobbing and connecting and reconnecting and building relationships with scientists. But, that's their thing, right? Science and doing science for a living. It's not really Bluefish Canada. We're more into community science and empowering anglers to collect data and to be observant and do stewardship and so on. It's not, we don't need to be there rubbing shoulders with the scientists, but we certainly will be there taking in all the presentations and setting up podcast interviews with the people that are presenting some interesting new information. So stay tuned for that. And if you want to hear direct from Jerome Marty about his thoughts of the history of research on the Great Lakes, the current state of research on the Great Lakes, and some of the issues that they're looking towards in terms of powering, plus a little summary of what the Canadian universities are specializing in terms of Great Lakes research and who's doing what. Check out the podcast, just came out today with Jerome Marty and the IAGLR on the Bluefish Radio Show, and you can listen to Jerome directly as we talk about what's happening there. We cover a lot of territory. It's Jerome was very candid, very open, and really nice to talk to him. He's just a fine guy.
That's awesome. And again, sorry, he's Canadian or American?
He's here in Canada. Yeah, he's Canadian. He's running the show.
He's running the show.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this, and I'm going to ask your opinion on this, Lawrence. If that is what is happening to American scientists, and our Canadian scientists are also being encouraged, whether they are at a university or practicing somewhere else, and being discouraged to go across, is this not an opportunity for Canadians to sort of be at the forefront when it comes to the conservation, the maintenance of our waterways? Like, we could literally spear it. I know everything costs money. I get that. No. But with all of this, pull back on the reins going, south of us, we have an opportunity here that, instead of looking at it as a negative, we have a great opportunity to be at the forefront of what's going on in the Great Lakes, and of course any other water body that is adjoining to the Great Lakes. And I hope we don't miss that.
That's a good point, Scottie. And I also think, having visited a number of Canadian research centers, water quality research centers on the Great Lakes, they're old, eh? Yeah. They're all old, and not you would think that there would be more money put into this, and maybe we've been coasting a little bit on this one, leaving the heavy lifting to the US dollars and the big funded universities there,
Right.
And just sort of, working around the edges a little bit. Maybe this is going to be a wake up call for Canada, for federal, provincial funding of this type of research. Say, look, we can't just count on downloading US data and going to these conferences and learning from American scientists. Maybe we need to step up and do a little bit more ourselves and not be dependent and not be put at risk in terms of, we need to know what's going on. And all of a sudden they're pulling out. Now we can't finish the research or the research isn't going to be done. And we've been counting on that research. So maybe we need to step up a little bit more and take some more responsibility. So I think it's going to be a wake up call.
I hope it is. I truly, at the end of the day, if we're going to put a pause, if we're going to push the pause button for everything that's going on south of us, then, let's push the fast forward on this side of the border and try and speed up some of the things that are being done. Because I have to say, there's a lot of cooperative efforts that have gone on up until this point when it comes to the Great Lakes. And it is a shame to hear that cooperation is starting to fall to the wayside.
Yeah.
If that's the case, you know what? We've always been pioneers and leaders when it comes to the environment and maintaining, a pollution-free society that folks can freely go into the water and not worry about eating fish. Hopefully we can make it a little bit better, and Canadians can be the ones we can congratulate for that.
Yeah, I agree. And, and if you want to hear more, like I said, from Jerome, check out the Bluefish Radio podcast. And there's some pretty interesting things that, I haven't even discussed here that we bring up, and lots of good content there for sure. But we can definitely do more. There's opportunity to do more, and we need to do more. This is a valuable, $1 trillion economic generator. And fresh water, man, we see this everywhere. We got to take care of it because there's only so much to go around. They're not making fresh water, right? It rains, but it's just raining down the same fresh water it's sucking up. So we gotta look after what we got. What's going into the Great Lakes spends hundreds of years of the Great Lakes before it goes out the other end. And we need to take care of it.
Freaking man, couldn't have said it better myself. Moving right along, I'm sure you've got other topics that you want to discuss as well.
Yeah, here's something.
Okay.
Record-setting big head carp caught by an angler in the United States.
I heard about
Oklahoma Grand Lake. You heard about this? This is the big head carp, right? So did you hear the weight of it?
No.
Do we have some guesses from the listeners on how big this record big head carp was or is?
I want to say 60 pounds.
Higher.
Ooh. 80 pounds.
Higher.
Over 100.
118.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, 118. And this guy, he's breaking his own record. So that's a huge fish, right? But these are phytoplankton feeders, right? They don't eat bugs. They don't eat minnows. They don't eat crayfish. They're eating plankton, like the green stuff in the water. Not even the zoo. So they're eating from the base of the food chain, the food that small minnows eat. And these things get to be 118 pounds by doing it. The other thing is to catch one of these fish, and it's never going to end up in the International Game Fish Association record book, because to catch one, you need to snag it. Right, you need to put on a big old ass treble hook and some lead, and I guess sight fish them. But this guy's got a few now. This is his second time, so the record will be a state record. It won't be a national or international record. But can you imagine if these fish get into the Great Lakes, right? And they, along with the silver and the black Asian carps, join their grass carp and common carp, and these filter feeders dominate the Great Lakes, and to catch them we have to go to snagging, and it's permitted down in these water bodies in the United States. You're allowed to snag these fish. That's totally allowable. But this totally, it's going to be a huge reset for how we see fishing, you know?
Well, I have my hand up. I know you can't see this, Lawrence, but I have
Yeah.
my hand up.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that feels as if that there's like an asterisk beside this catch?
Yeah.
Like, to me, throwing a weighted treble to snag any kind of fish, that's not really fishing.
No, it's spearing. It's almost like spearing, right? Or fishing with a bow, you know.
And I
mean,
understand it's allowed, you know, in the States.
Yeah.
And I understand, you know, forking pike is allowed, and as you said, you know, bow and arrow with carp and alligator gar, you know, these are all forms of fishing to our American counterparts. But I guess I'm just old school. That doesn't seem like fishing to me.
Yeah, it's more like hunting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're going to hunt these fish and with these trebles, are you letting them go again? Can you let them go? Are they going to recover from their hook wounds? Or is the whole point to get them out and eat them? You know, I know there's been some work in some of the states that are, you know, working with celebrity chefs to develop recipes for eating these Asian carp. And so what does a filter feeder taste like? Well, you know, eat a tilapia and you tell me.
No thanks. no thanks. And listen, to those who appreciate it, I don't want to give you the wrong impression. I'm for everything. Like, I mean, if folks like to eat tilapia, if you like to eat carp, God bless you. All the power to you. It's not my fancy. And 100-pound plus carp is certainly not high on my wish list of things to do.
Do they bioaccumulate things like mercury and PFAS and microplastics? That's another question, right? Maybe they're a really clean meat source. There's so much we don't know. There's so much though we don't want to know, right? We don't want to know. Like, do we really want to know that we can eat these fish and they're going to be yummy and it's going to taste like chicken? And we're going to be allowed to fish them or spear them or bow them or whatever. You know, do we want to know all that? Do we care? Should we, you know?
Well,
I'd rather just keep them the hell out. Keep them the hell out.
What you just led with is what's concerning to me, because everything's sunny and 17 down in the States right now. That's something like that, like you just discussed. I mean, there's not even going to be a second thought about it. Absolutely. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Put a little bit of garlic, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it's fantastic. No, it's not.
And you get to catch 100-pound plus fish, you know. Yeah. It's just, you know, and you're going to be snagging. And then, you know, what message is that sending to young anglers who are going to see those salmon going up the rivers, right? And sturgeon and such and walleye on their spawning beds and bass on spawning beds. What kind of message are we sending? So
agreed.
There's
a great comment here. Snagging certain types of fish, certain types of bottom fish in the ocean is perfectly legal. To me, that's completely different, Corey, because, you know, at the end of the day, you're dropping a line down 50, 60, 100 feet, whatever it is. You have no idea what you're going to catch. And all of a sudden you feel a little weight on the end of your hook, and it's in the belly, it's in the bottom lip, or whatever. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, to me, that seems a lot more normal than going out and sight fishing for big carp with a weighted treble. It's just my opinion. I'm just saying that. I'm not trying to pass that opinion on to others. I'm interested to see how you feel. And based on what Corey's saying, yeah, I mean, it's spearfishing is a type of hunting for fish. You can take what size fish you want to harvest, and that way you could keep the fish population healthy. That's an argument. I can't deny that. That's a good argument.
Yeah,
but it's not to me, Corey. It's not fishing. It's hunting.
It's hunting. Yeah, it's foraging, hunting, whatever it is. But it's not, you know, I don't know if you'd want to call it catch and release fishing. That I don't think it should even be allowed. If you're gonna, you shouldn't be able to catch and release fishing if you're going to be doing that. I don't think.
And I would have to say that it's probably not. I'm gonna think that it's not. If to Corey's point, if folks are going out and hunting those fish, then there's no possibility of catch and release. So that might be off the table. Anyway, great topic. I like that topic. Keep going.
Okay, so here's a couple back-to-back articles on the similar theme. So this is from Smithsonian Institute. You know, all the big museums in the Washington D.C. They have a magazine. They published an article about seals and sea lion populations on the West Coast exploding. and causing all sorts of trouble for salmon. All sorts of trouble for salmon. And we know this, we heard this, but you know what? It's getting sort of mainstream acceptance that there's a problem here. And this is not just, it's not just the quote unquote fringe element saying this, that now it's becoming, you have large, reputable, science-based, museums and their scientists coming out with this sort of data. And in this article, they're talking to some representatives of 20 different tribal nations on the U.S. Pacific coast that are shared in their belief that something has to be done. Something has to be done to curtail the population size of seals and sea lions because it's seriously impacting the recovery of salmon.
I think anybody out on the West Coast, there's no way in heck they would argue what you just said. For all those that we've seen the videos, and there's numerous ones out there of these sea lions that have taken refuge on sailboats and docks, and you get to a point where certain areas are impassable because they've basically taken over public access. They are vicious, and to your point, they are eating machines. And if we're trying to recover salmon, it might be something that we need to think about 100%. We've been saying this, I think, for a while now, Lawrence, if I'm not mistaken, that there's an explosion of seals and sea lions both on our west and east coast.
Yeah, and the numbers, people are afraid to publish numbers because they don't want to draw attention to themselves. Some scientists publish numbers. They're going to look like the environmentalists as being being inviting and fueling the debate on what to do. So, like these sea lions in the 1960s, there had been a call on seals and sea lions on the West Coast. And by the 1960s, their numbers were down considerably. And then in 1972, the U.S. government stopped the calling and because they thought the numbers were reaching dangerous low levels. And they said, no more of that. And the population has rebounded. Unfortunately, the population of seals and sea lions since 1972, when the culling was halted, their population increased at the same time the salmon population was decreasing. Now, one more crazy element to put into all of this is also we introduced a whole lot of dams with fish ladders onto the pathway of these spawning salmon. And when you have a dam and a fish ladder, you basically created a pool below the dam and a funnel point where the salmon have to sort of move to get over the dam. They have to get in position to get into the fish ladder and then start their path up the fish ladder. The seals and the sea lions have figured this out, right? They figured this out. So they're right there saying, thank you very much. And it's a bloodbath. It's a bloodbath.
What do you do? I mean, this is the unfortunate thing. Nature's nature, but we do because we have altered their migration to a certain degree. Most species of fish, we've altered their migration based on damming and the changing of how water flows. But how much do we allow to continue and let nature sort of take its course when you are starting to see destruction, not only in salmon populations, but private property? At what point do we not consider it a nuisance anymore and consider it something that we actually have to take action on? At what point do we cross that line?
Well, exactly. And especially if we're creating the problem, right? With these fish ladders and dams, we're creating the problem. We're saying, hey, putting out the dinner bell and saying, look, hey, we've rounded up all the fish. They're just hanging around here, come and get them. Come and get them because they're not moving fast into the shallow waters further upstream where the seals and sea lions won't go. They're basically, they're being corralled for these predators to take advantage of them. So it's problematic. The indigenous, or in the United States, they call it tribal communities and leaders are saying something needs to be done. And then that shows a picture in the article of the main spokesperson for these 20 tribal communities, and she's wearing a sealskin jacket. So there's your answer, right?
Wow. Okay, enough said.
Yeah. Well, I think we get the message. We get the message.
What a way to round up that argument. Oh my, well done. Well
Yeah.
done, Lords. All right, what else?
Okay, so here's on the Canadian side of that same issue. It used to be that the aquaculture industry on the West Coast, they've been dealing with predators and their nets for a long time. And up until 1999, they were allowed to use lethal force to deter and respond to predatory pressure from seals and sea lions on their nets and cages. And in 1999, the last year they were allowed to use lethal force by DFO, there was about 730 seals and sea lions that were killed by the aquaculture industry that were reported. How many weren't reported, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they 730. So then it was stopped. They were no longer allowed to use lethal force. So they've started erecting fences and other nets around the cages. So you have, but you have to be in water where you can do that. It can't be deep. You can't put a fence in 100 feet of water. It's got to be, in areas that are conducive to putting up fencing, if you're going to keep out these powerful animals. And then the fencing has to be quite significant. So it's not necessarily a fail-safe solution. And seals and sea lions have become quite good at knocking these fences down and busting into nets and, having a big festival of their own. A big, here's the step up to the pantry and help yourself kind of thing. So now what they're doing is the aquaculture industry is they're applying to use guns with rubber bullets, and they're getting permits to use it. But DFO has now just issued some science and said it turns out that the fish that sea lions and seals don't really think rubber bullets are a problem, so it's not really working. I mean, if these things, I guess, if you're shooting through water, right, how it really slows things down. So, and these things have pretty tough coats on them, thick layers of blubber and thick skins and so on. So the rubber bullets aren't doing it anyways. So we've got a problem here in Canada too, with what's left of the aquaculture industry on the West Coast. And the seals and sea lions, and it's a problem, man. It's a problem for fishers as well. Commercial fishers with nets, they're having their nets busted and torn apart as well. So there's lots of we've got lots of problems on the West Coast as we do on the East Coast.
I will have to say, lately there's been a lot more. I don't want to say drama, but I would say a lot more issues being faced on the West Coast than on the East Coast. And typically it's been the other way around for a number of years. We've always talked about the East Coast when it comes to lobster and striped bass and Atlantic salmon and, this, that, and everything else. We've always been talking a cod fishery, being shut down. But now I would have to say the focus is more on the West Coast than ever before. And Corey brings up a great point of a patrol that goes on the Rouge River. They have a seal patrol. In the Rouge or Rogue River to put the sea lions out of the bay where there is more salmon for everyone to catch. That's cool. I mean, as I said, it's these kind of initiatives that hopefully will allow nature to take its course. But again, you're probably pissing a lot of people off by doing something about them that is lethal. And you're never gonna make everybody happy. But what do you do?
What do you do? And how do you, for you and I are old enough to remember when Bridget Bardot came over, or Raquel Welch, whichever one it was, I don't remember now, and hung out on the ice floes around Newfoundland and banned the seal pup, slaughter and the seal pup hunt. And just how it turned Canada into a nation of barbarians, according to the Europeans, which now most of Europe, EU has a fur-free zone. It's a fur-free zone. So unless it's artificial fur, you're not wearing fur in Europe anymore. And not in the EU anyways. But there's not a lot of fur. But if you talk to the trappers, there's still a lot of interest in fur in Asia and Eastern Europe and into Russia and places like that, fur is still very popular as a fashion. And a lot of our fur trappers, or a lot of indigenous fur trappers, really depend on that, that revenue in the wintertime. And they're running sustainable fur operations, and they have been for multiple generations. Look, the Hudson's Bay Corporation is one of the oldest long-term running companies in the world, and it's all fur trapping, and First Nations people have mastered that, and it's part of their social, always has been, but in terms of commerce and putting some money in their pockets, it's worked well for them. But so this is all going to come out again, and it's going to be interesting. The environmentalists, if they come out hard against calling seals or calling sea lions, they're also going to have to think about, well, what about indigenous trapping and indigenous country food? Up in the Arctic, we see Inuit people harvesting belugas and narwhals for food. You can't suck and blow, right? You can't suck and blow and say, if you're not a card carrying indigenous person, you're not allowed to hunt these types of animals. If you are not a card carrying indigenous person, then you can only hunt these types of animals. It's going to get just ridiculous. It's getting a little ridiculous already. So we're going to need to do a big reset, I think, on a lot of our thinking about this, and we're going to have to become a lot more pragmatic and a lot less emotional and a lot less dogmatic about how we hunt and fish. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to have to just become more practical and more realistic in the rules we create and the opportunities that come from those rules, and just support. It's going to be Canada, right? We live in Canada. Look, we all loved Canada Goose coats for the longest time with their wolf fur hoods and their goose down, stuffed coats. They were the pride and joy of Canadians, until someone said, hey, you know what? That's real wolf fur on that hood. So then they responded, they stopped using real wolf fur. And then someone else said, the geese that are being grown to put feathers into those coats, they're not being grown respectively. So, at some point we have to figure this stuff out and figure out a way forward where we can live with nature and live from nature and do what we have to do as Canadians, and take some pride in it a little bit, and not just browbeat everybody with our moral stance.
There's 2 points I'll make in regards to all this, and one is it's interesting that remember the advertisement that it run on every TV station in Canada when they were getting rid of the seal on the barbaric harvesting of seals. They showed the most grotesque video, and it's interesting because if you were to try and play that on Facebook right now, I don't know how long it would last before they'd force you to take it down or just delete it themselves. It's amazing that stuff like that made it on mainstream TV. Obviously it was trying to push an agenda, so it was shock and awe. But at the end of the day, what was allowable sort of then, even though we have become more liberal on what we allow on mainstream TV, something like that, when it comes to social media, where it seems like anything goes, there's a line that you can't cross, and you'd never be able to probably post that video for very long before it was taken down. So that part's very interesting. But look at the Hudson's Bay Company. Mm-hmm. Like, aren't they selling everything off? Like, it goes to show how well the industry is growing. Not
Canadian Tire bought the logos and the name. And a rich
oh wow,
yeah. So the Hudson's Bay blankets will continue, my friend. You'll just buy them at Canadian Tire now.
Interesting.
Yeah. But you know what? I look at my daughter. She's 19, and she's pretty plugged in. And I think a lot of younger generation, they're not so easily, they're not so gullible into buying into the sort of positions of, well, we can't touch it, it's you don't want to hurt nature, and we're going to kiss and hug it and wrap our arms around it. There's they're a lot more realistic than the generation, the hippie generation and what came out of that era. They're much more pragmatic, much more realistic, and looking at the science. looking at the science, not the emotional arguments, but the science arguments and the practicality arguments. And if we can eat cows and we can eat geese and chickens, what's the difference, right? Between, I mean, you can't be so easily bought off, and I think our young new generation is not buying into a lot of this stuff anymore, and it's interesting. It's interesting.
It is interesting, and they will probably peel back the onion and see all the mistakes that we've made over the years. And hopefully, they're
looking at it, they're laughing at us now, man. And,
yeah.
They're saying, you guys, we keep thinking we can fix it, and what we should really be doing is just living with it and trying to figure out how to live with it and as part of it and be part of it, instead of just trying to fix it and preserve it and throw everything out of balance all the time.
And then there's George, who keeps us grounded.
Okay, what's George saying?
You are dreaming in Technicolor if you think provincial or federal governments will allocate any more money or funding to the environment or fisheries.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with them. I really don't. But at the end of the day, this is a great opportunity with everything that's going on down the south. And of course, it seems to be a bit of a pause going on for us to step forward and be the leaders of. But again, without money, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough. I will say this, Lawrence, your segment has flown by, dude.
Oh, good. I think we pushed the limit on this one, eh?
I'm telling you, man.
Sorry, Jason. Sorry, buddy.
No, not at all. You're perfect. But as I said, it's amazing that the wealth of knowledge that you bring to us every Monday, dude. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, my pleasure, man. It's always good to bat things around with you, buddy, and hear the comments, for sure.
Likewise, maybe one of these days we have a more candid conversation that is. I don't want to say intimate. That sounds awful.
I've got something in mind, and just wait. I got some new staff coming on board in a couple of weeks, and we're gonna come up with a proposal, and we're gonna bat this around a bit. But I'll run this by you. I'm just letting you know we got to have a conversation coming up.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Lawrence, as always, thanks so much, dude. Have yourself a fantastic week and keep up the great work, dude.
Thanks, buddy. Yep.
Keep grinding, dude. Keep grinding. Love it.
Cool.
We have Jay Barnucz coming up right after a word from his sponsor. You take care, Lawrence. Have a great week.
All right.
Peace.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
Well, Jay, I have to ask you, what's the color of the sky in your world?
I think George should run for prime minister. You saw my comment in the chat.
George for PM. I love it.
George for PM.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah,
awesome.
I will gladly be a part of his cabinet if he was to run. I'd be happy to have a chair in that cabinet.
Likewise,
dude.
It's on our toes, and he'll keep us entertained regardless.
Hey man, we need listen. Something like 1% goes towards managing like fisheries in Canada, like because education and healthcare and all, these are all important things. I'm not saying they're not, they are. So is fisheries important to me? Sure is. But, I still think though that we are in a pretty good place. We're not as rich in those areas as maybe like the US is, but same time, dude, they also have way more people than us. They have a larger tax base,
100%,
big tax base.
100%.
So yeah. And hey, I went today to get a tooth pulled, and I just went in and it was taken care of. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I don't want to get too political here on this show at all, because we're going to talk about fishing in a second. But let's be honest, we live in a pretty good place.
We do. Could it be better? 100%, and hopefully we can get there. But in the meantime, let's call it what it is. It could be a lot freaking worse than what.
Oh, Tony, whatever George is drinking, I want George's Kool-Aid. I have sampled that Kool-Aid. I live that Kool-Aid. George, George and I are in the same line of work. He's a little further down the path than I am, so I think he's a little more truthful, a little more truth serum coming out of George, which I love. I love it. I appreciate George chiming in. So,
Well,
yeah,
regardless of what George is drinking, and whether it's in excess, whether it's water, whether it's wobbly pops, he's not the only one that's drenched. We have a big problem down in the Trent system right now. Obviously, we've got a diesel spill that Steve alluded to earlier that we're contending with right now in the autonomy, but also just the water levels themselves. You shared this from Ontario to yours. The high water levels.
I don't know. I feel like I'm out of the loop. Like I know we've had some extra rain and things the last little while, but yeah, from Lock 1 to Lock 18. So basically the whole lower Trent. So from Rice down to Trenton, which is there's a lot of water down there, and I'm going to assume now. How was the water levels? You were up on Sturgeon. How was that on the weekend? Was it high?
Great point, Jay. Yeah, surprisingly high, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I would have to say that it was up at least 2 feet, if not more.
Yeah.
Up at the falls where unless you're not familiar where Fenelon Falls flow into Sturgeon, the amount of water coming over that dam was incredible. I've never seen it raging like it was. And it looked like there was no end to it. The current was very, very strong. But docks that typically are up 2 or 3 feet when we fished this tournament before are literally 6 inches above the water line. Some of them were actually.
There you go. Like when I saw that article, I was like, it's got to be higher through the whole system. It
is.
Like although it is regulated, it's a very small system with small dams. Like whatever happens in one reach happens in all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and it sounds like all the water goes downhill, so that's probably building up at the bottom first, and then it's backing up. Actually, is probably what's happening. So, and we're supposed to get more rain this week, for crying out loud, more rain.
I know.
So
I would have to say, we talk about weather during your segment, and I can't recall if you think back through the years, a system that lasted as long as this last one did. Yeah. Have we ever had a system come through like a turtle and dump that much rain?
I don't think so. Like last week, it's been a while, and like a slow, steady rain too, right? Like last week, it rained over like just around here. Like it was well over 2.5. Oh, George, we appreciate you, buddy. We really do. We poke fun, but George, we appreciate you, man, for sure. Thanks, man, for doing that. Absolutely. Like I think we got over two inches of rain over 3 days around, like just where I live, and maybe more. And it was like a steady soak. Like the lawns have never been green around here, man. Like it's pretty wild. But it's been cool though. Like we haven't had the heat to get things going yet. Like today was nice. I'm not going to complain about today. It touched 20 today.
Beautiful.
But the rest of the week, like we're still in that sort of, and it season, like we're not quite at seasonal. We're just below seasonal on average right now, which isn't terrible. But the nighttime lows are low, and there's these north winds that are constantly blowing. Like things are slow. We were out fishing on the weekend, Scottie, and this trend continues. Like water temperatures are, we're talking, I'll talk Fahrenheit. We're talking in the mid to high 50s for Southern Ontario. And what was the water temperature up where you guys were?
Well, surprisingly, to your point, and what Charles had said earlier, dam water typically, as you know, sometimes will be colder just because of how it flows, underneath, depending on the type of dam it is. This is running over top of whatever the I don't even know what you call them, but it's running over top. So all of the warm water upstream is flowing out into Sturgeon first. Temperature was 55 degrees. It was kind of higher than I thought, but it was right around that mark where there's a good chance, Moose, that we might still see walleye in the river. And boy, did we ever get it wrong.
Yeah.
If they're there, we didn't find them, put it that way.
Yeah, George, I didn't see Steve's post about
We actually shared it. Let me see if I can find it because I uploaded it last, and it is very concerning because to George's point, there are.
So I was thinking about this on the weekend because the reservoir we were fishing, so it's May 26th, and now the reservoir I was fishing is a little deeper, so it's a little cooler than other reservoirs around here. It's an inland reservoir, and man, like the water temperatures were in the mid 50s, like 55, 56, 57.
Yeah.
It's May 20. This was Saturday, May 24th. The bass aren't even nesting yet. Like that, I saw bass. You could see where they're kind of staging, but no one was paired up. There was no obvious signs of nesting. It's very clear. This is a very clear reservoir, so you can see what's going on. And I was honestly surprised to not see any nesting bass yet. We were targeting panfish, and which I'll show one in a second. We got some big bluegills, but man, I was like, so it's kind of fun now, Scottie. So when you're skinnier, you get to stand a lot in a kayak. So before last fall, I would stand in the kayak to take my coat off and stretch and like maybe relieve myself, take a leak, that kind of stuff. Now, like, I won't lie, dude. I can.
Are you doing jumping jacks? Like, are you doing?
No, but like I'm standing up.
Wow.
Now I got a big kayak too. It's a big kayak, right? But I'm standing up with the paddle and I'm like gondoling my way along, and I'm actually like sight fishing the bluegills on Saturday. Like I have here, I'll show it now because we'll talk a bit of fishing. So here's my setup. So because people are out, so just dude, it's just a little float.
Yeah.
Okay. On like that's like I think that's like 6 pound fire line.
Yeah.
And then but this is the money piece. This is a lot of fun right here. So this is called the Power Shot by Berkeley.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Wow.
So I'll show you one out of the package. It's made for forward facing sonar, but I don't have that. But this is what it looks like. So that's one of the colors. That's that one I had was on a perch color. This is like a fire tiger.
Okay.
And it has this little, so it has a big head on it for target sensing for forward facing sonar, but that little tail on it, just like even just holding it, like I got some coffee shakes always, but just quivers, like just a little quivering tail. And
what's the name of that again? What's the name of that bait again?
It's called the Berkeley Power Switch.
Power Switch.
Yeah.
Is that new?
So
I've never seen that before.
So that one's a 4 centimeter. It's 1/16th. It's a 1/16. Like that's the smallest one they make. They make them great big ones. Like, and I know guys have been using ice fishing a lot. Everything from panfish to lake trout, different sizes. But what's great about these is it's like that right weight with that float. I don't have to put any split shot on. I just have to toss it out, and there's no hooks to wrap. When you're pitching a float around, sometimes things get tangled up. This thing that little bait goes down, it quivers. I twitch the float, and in the leader here, so you can see like there's my float, there's my bait. Like I'm only running, like that's only about 2 feet a leader. That's it. So these fish are, you can see them. So the little ones, the little bluegills, like 6 and 8 inches, they school up. There are multiples, but the big ones, I'll show a picture here. It's kind of cool. So the big ones, man, they're pretty unique. So this is one that I got. See if it comes up.
Yep.
So this is the one that I got. This is the biggest one. This was almost 9 3/4 inches. It wasn't 10. So now, dude, I'm a big guy. I hate holding up fish sometimes because I'm still big enough that it's like I have to hold it out. But dude, you've done the CFN fish off a long time. Any gill over 9 inches is a good one. And this one was I couldn't quite get it to go 9 3/4 on the board. Like I have 1/4 inch increments. It wouldn't quite go 9 3/4, but it was over 9.5. Like it was a beautiful gill. And the gills, when we're seeing them, the big ones, they're kind of like paired up, but they're not pairs. It's like, I think these are all big males, but they're like little wolf packs of like 2 or 3. They're not in big schools. And so what we do is we were sight fishing them. So you'd stand up with the kayak and you'd see them and you'd pitch to them. But if you got too close, they'd spook. This is just like sight fishing smallmouth on Lake Erie. This is exactly what I was doing, but I was doing it with a float and a bait. Trevor had good success though. Here, I'll show another bait that Trevor was using. These are just swim baits. These are Berkeley power swimmers.
Yep.
At 2-inch size. And so he did pretty well throwing a little swim bait. So like, just like you would for smallmouth, long cast, let it sink and then slow roll it. And then I was catching them on a float. So it's kind of a 1-2, and we didn't even fish together. In fact, I said to him, I said, we need to fish together next time we go and do some more filming, because it was like really cool way to fish for these fish. And I know some, it's funny with panfish, right? Like some people are out there messing me like, panfish, like who cares? But then these conversations, the pictures I put up this week, I'm getting guys reach out and comment like Taro and others, and they're like, man, that's so awesome. Catching giant bluegills is great. And I think it's cool, man. Like I love this time of year. Like, let's be honest, I love bass fishing. I just wait for bass fishing season open right now. But being able to actually go and catch these huge panfish, it's a ton of fun. And I'm using lots of 6-foot, some folks rod, a 6-foot light action rod, the same rod I use for trout. That's my trout, little small stream trout rod. Like, not an ultralight. These fish are pretty beefy. Like, I don't want to totally give it to them, man. They're pretty beefy. Like, they come up and I laugh, these big male bluegills, actually, I'm going to see if I'll show one more picture while we're talking. I was calling them little beefcakes because they'll come up.
They do look like little beefcakes, man.
They come right up to the bait.
Oh, jeez.
Like just a chonker. Like they come right up and they're like, they kind of waddle up to the bait and they look up and they kind of like, the little ones will peck. The big ones just kind of wander up to it and then they just kind of like a little linebacker. You know what I mean?
It's exactly what it looks like.
Just
That's
walk
exactly
right up and they just like eat it and then they just turn and swim off with it. And you gotta wail on them.
When that picture popped up, Jay, for those who know what I'm talking about, yeah. I was waiting for you rang.
Yeah, right. But you can see like on that picture, like I tried stretching the tail, dude. A lot of years of fishing the CFN fish off, man. I tried getting that tail to touch 9 3/4, but I almost did. But I'm not gonna force it. So I said to Trevor, I said, we got to try and get a 10-incher on camera. That's what we got to try and do, like a 10-inch gill. Now the Ontario record, I'm not sure what the actual sport fishing record is, but Trevor had me look up the. I'm gonna close that. He had me look up the fisheries research record, which is kind of, we go by the Ontario Fishes database. And dude, it's 11.8 inches. It's 30.2 centimeters. Trevor and I are texting tonight. I don't even know where he is. I think he was at a soccer game. I don't even know where my son was. I'm just like texting about bluegills, right? Yeah. And I'm like, dude, he goes, we'll never beat that. I go, don't say never, man. We got to try and get a big one on camera. So we're going to try and catch a 10-inch gill on Sunday. That's our plan.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I will say Sunday and this weekend looks a lot more favorable than this past weekend.
Yeah.
So hopefully, if there is any chance for us to revisit the whole spawning issue that we're about to hear from Stephen Cook, I was able to find that video. So
cool. Yeah. Bring it up.
For all those who missed it last week, this is something that I think needs to be spread simply for the fact that in order to ensure our future fisheries, these fish definitely need to be released if caught, simply because of what Stephen Cook is about to tell us.
Grim for bass in Eastern Ontario this year. That happens. We have years that are cold snaps. Winter is another period, really, really long cold winters can definitely also be problematic for bass, especially the babies if they haven't gotten chubby enough, put on enough fat for the winter. They will starve. So again, temperature means everything. It should be warm. I should be in shorts. I should be able to show off a pretty sweet sandal tan. Not happening. It has been a cold week. Water temperatures were up to 16, 17, 18 degrees Celsius, which means smallmouth bass and largemouth bass were spawning. We had fish on nests, and then this cold snap came in, and it's lasted, like I said, I think we're at day 6 now. It's been going down to 5 or 6 degrees Celsius at night, and it's been pretty cloudy. So not surprisingly, the water temperatures have really taken a dive. And so what does that mean for nesting bass? So for fish, water temperature means everything. It influences how fast they digest food, how much energy they expend, how fast they can swim. And in the case of their babies, whether they be fertilized eggs or embryos, it can be quite simply lethal. So anything below about 12 degrees Celsius will kill those baby bass or wipe out the fertilized eggs. So we are at that point. So and that was evident by the snorkelers that were in the water yesterday. Lots of nests that were empty, and the dads bail. The dads leave. They know what those thresholds are when their babies die, and there's nothing they can do about it. So they bail. We had some nests where the dads were gone and the eggs were still there. Those eggs are probably dead, and if not, predators will be moving in quickly. The reason the predators haven't hammered them is simply because it's so cold. The predators, the sunfish, things like bluegill and pumpkin seed, are also not up in the shallows right now because it is so frigid.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's there's some cool in like the work that Steve and his lab and his colleagues have done over the years is amazing. Some of the work they've done include things like it's been shown that smallmouth bass are more prone to not leave the nest versus largemouth. So like smallmouth bass will put more risk into the males will put more risk into themselves than the males of a largemouth per se. Especially what I've read too is that the more north you get, the harder they defend these nests. Like our spawning window is so small in the north, and the fish kind of know that. Like the temperatures get right quick, and then they only have so much time to spawn. Whereas down south, the spawning period is more prolonged because the water temperatures stay warmer longer or take longer to warm up. Anyways, long story short, yeah, like so what Steve is describing is exactly what I saw on the weekend, where I was shocked at how cool the water temperatures were. Now, again, I have a bias. This reservoir that I was on gets depths of 30 feet. It's very deep. It's small. It's only a couple kilometers long and maybe 500 meters across. But I was shocked to see 55 Fahrenheit on my graph, give or take, like 55 to 57. I got to 57. And I'm like, I said to Trevor, I was calling him on the radio. I'm like, dude, these water temps are really cold. Like, and I was surprised not after being in North Bay the weekend before and seeing bass on beds like in the 60s, and then coming a reservoir down south where it's literally a 10-degree difference in a week. All that cold rain had to have. Now, I don't know what the water temperature was at the reservoir during that same warm spit. Well, I'm going to bet it's not 10 degrees difference. I'm going to bet that it probably got up into the 60s, but then it dropped again. So, yeah, man, it is not looking good for bass populations right now unless we suddenly get some warm weather. Now, all fish don't spawn at once. We know this fish will spawn over a period of time, over a period of weeks. So let's hope that happens. And some fish spawn shallow. Some fish have been known to spawn deeper. So who knows quite what's happening, but in the smaller lakes, we'll see those fluctuations faster with water temperature. So yeah, Steve's his worrisome. He's being worried is good because he's bringing up a good point. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, dude. We'll see. I'll be
Well,
out. I'll let you know what I'm seeing. I'm curious how that all unfolds.
as I said, I think it's a great opportunity to just push even more the need for catch and release to ensure that these fish are back again for next year for take two, because
Yeah.
this year might just be a wash for when it comes to bass spawning. But at the end of the day, most folks who do catch bass do release them. So I don't know that we.
And I think it's a good point to remember that it's important that. Oh yeah, that's right. George chimes in. I heard Dr. Ridgway was retiring, has left the field. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of retirements happening with scientists, and there's a bit of a cohort missing of people within the M&R because of the layoffs that Mike Harris did in the 90s, and there's a big cohort of there's a cohort of people who just are missing in that succession. Does that make sense, Scottie? Because of the big layoffs that happened. So these are some of the old school best scientists that we grew up reading about, listening to talk, read their papers, and retirements are happening. And Ridgway is one of the world-renowned bass researchers in the world, and he's made a career of studying bass, especially on Lake Opeongo. Mark was the director for Harkness for many, many years. So it's gonna be
hard to see some of these names come up for retirement. They've done so much for so long, and to lose that knowledge.
So Joe, it's interesting you mentioned that, Joe. So Victoria weekend on the French was 52-58. So see, I was up in the West Arm last week, and so when was I up there? The 16th. So now you're making me look it up because I want to be accurate.
It was May long weekend, wasn't it? The same weekend?
Yeah, May long weekend.
Yep.
So that was the 17th and 18th, and it was like 67 to 65, give or take. Now I was in shallow areas. I think the average temperature up in that West Arm was 65. I'm going to say that on the long weekend. That's what it got up to after all of that warm weather came through. So very interesting, Joe. So yeah, the French did see a decline in water temperature, much like the rest of Ontario did. And yeah, because Scottie, like you said, it wasn't just one day. It was like 3 days of cold.
Well, this is the thing. Like it literally just moved its arse out of here yesterday. We still got rain late in the day. The convection or whatever happened, and we were still getting rain late in the day. But I mean, holy crap!
It carried right through till Saturday. Right through till Saturday,
Yeah.
like basically from Tuesday to Saturday, it carried through.
Never seen a storm front last that long. That's a first.
And yesterday, like the sun came out, but that north wind still blew. And today was the first day of felt like spring for a while. So
100%.
Yeah.
The next thing you wanted to bring up, and I think this is very cool. This, of course, comes back to the old citizen science thing, but I think
I
this
saw
is a
this
great
on folks can go to OFAH. They're doing a survey. This is about plastic pollution, microplastics, and they're doing a survey. These surveys are helpful, everyone. So if you can go fill out information on surveys like this, a lot of this data I know gets actually used a lot by graduate researchers. So, I know we're not out maybe tagging fish and looking at like that kind of stuff directly, but this type of research is still helpful for managing our resources. And so micropollution, it's an eye opener, isn't it? Like think about where, like I was even talking with, so I deal a lot with Mustang Canada for a lot of my like outerwear, my life jackets, and both at work and myself. I love Mustang, that make great products. And all the companies out there that make Gore-Tex have all had to retool their Gore-Tex because the Gore-Tex, the previous versions of this is what I was talking to a colleague about. It basically, you get microplastics coming off of it on the Gore-Tex into the water. Like this stuff's coming off everything, man. I couldn't believe it. So they've had to retool their Gore-Tex. They had to go back to the drawing board on. It's still a great. I have their new jacket. It's wonderful. Gore-Tex is great. I wore it up in North Bay. But yeah, like I never would have thought about. You talk about like soaps and scrubs, and I get that. Like, you know, they want to use that to clear your pores and all that nice shit. Dude, on your Gore-Tex raincoat, your fishing coat has microplastics in it. Wild.
You know, and I know this is off topic, but I was reading an article about some of the most dangerous foods to eat that sort of we don't even know about. And the one that was at the top of the list, I don't want to use a brand name, but if you go to those big department store, it starts with a C, ends with an O. The chicken that they have warmed up, that they cook and they put in these plastic bags.
Yeah.
The worst chicken to eat.
I read about
Hands
this.
down. For Michael.
Dude, broke my heart. I love that stuff.
I know. You and me both.
God.
Hands down the worst food that you could eat from a store. I had no idea. But
anyway, back to George has a good comment tonight. So George, I agree with you on that. Normal spring. We've been around. Like, I actually mentioned this to Cindy Chu, who I work with at Fisheries and Oceans and knows George well. I mentioned this to Cindy. Her office is right beside mine. Not that her and I are never in the office at the same time, for crying out loud, but when we are, we talk. I've known Cindy 20 years, and she's made a career out of looking at these long-term weather and sort of climate studies. And yeah, she made a comment that we're just having a more normal spring. I don't disagree with that. I'm actually curious to see if that is what's finally happening. Is we are, you know, we take the last 30 years and what's like we've had these new normals. Are we actually having? And you know, that's not like we've reversed. I've seen people making jokes about carbon taxes, and we've all now have cooler springs because we paid carbon. I just don't need to go there. The reality is that this stuff all happens, and we're all at the mercy of weather patterns around the globe. And it's cool to see that if this is truly happening this year, how that impacts our fisheries. I'm curious to see how that goes. It's neat.
Amen. And to Joe's point, this weather is certainly not having an adverse effect on the black flies. They are out in droves. I have heard that. Thanks, Joe, for letting us know, and Jim for allowing us that information, that intel. But I'm getting that intel from a lot of people. And they have said, Scottie, when you head up in a couple weeks to the French River with your buddies, make sure you bring lots of bug repellent because they are out in full force, those black flies. So not looking.
I'll share this in the chat because it's hilarious. So some of you folks might have already seen this, but this is from Trevor. So he did a YouTube video of our day one up at Nipissing. And if you want to see black flies, I on the Friday, I might have said this last week, but on the Friday of that trip, it was nice out like today, like 20 degrees warm, and the black flies were chewing my son alive. They loved him. They loved Trevor. And even in the video, there's black flies buzzing him in the kayak. And his mother loved it because we might have forgot to pack the bug spray after she told us to pack the bug spray.
Oh no!
And so I'm not a big bug spray guy. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like using it. Like I am a last resort. I usually have a can lying around, but I barely use it. But anyways, yeah, he might even reference. He should have listened to Mom. That might have actually been said in the YouTube video. So go check that out. It's a pretty fun video he made. So yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, listen, as always, my friend, I can't thank you enough for all you do and all you continue to do with your friend, your family, your friends, and of course the industry at large. Keep up the great work that you do, and we truly appreciate and value your time.
Thanks, man.
Now, what have you got upcoming this week?
I'm in the office this week. I got a lot of planning of stuff going on, so gonna try and get. Dude, I got the kayaks all dialed in right now, right? So now that spring is here and we've been out a couple of times, so I kind of want to get out as much as possible.
It's a nice weekend this weekend. What do you think you're going to go for this weekend?
Yeah, we're going to go do panfish again. I really liked sight fishing those panfish last weekend, cool. And I think with a little sun and a little warmth, I think the bite will continue to be good. So yeah, looking forward to doing that on the weekend, and then yeah, dude, like. Well, actually, I got a call Mark Penner at Grimsby Tackle. We might be doing a kayak meetup on Saturday at Grimsby Tackle.
Cool.
And this past weekend, actually, geez, I should even mention this. This past weekend, although I was catching bluegills, it was also our first Norfolk County Kayak Anglers meetup. So,
wow.
But I got trouble because Heather, our social director, was not happy that we didn't actually like hang out together. Like we all just went. Like kayakers are funny, dude, because we all show up and then we all just go fishing.
Yep.
Like we'll talk at the ramp, shake hands, and all the like great stuff, and then we just go our separate ways. And then we don't meet up afterwards because now the day was kind of crap. I didn't want to make people stay all day because the weather wasn't great. So I said, we got to fish together this weekend, Trevor. We got to spend some time together because your mother's not liking the fact that we're always fishing like opposite ends of the lake from each other. But dude, when you fish around somebody who's a good angler too, they catch fish and they cut your grass.
Amen.
So we got some more kayak meetups coming up. It's all about just getting people out and talking fishing, right? Like,
awesome.
So we're gonna have some more coming up, and then bass season starts in 3 weeks, man.
Think about that, Jay. It's almost June.
Yeah.
Almost. We were literally talking about hard water fishing, like ice fishing, not that long ago. Like, holy crap! This year is just flying by, and I know
it's
as we
just under a month away. 3.5 weeks till the Kawartha is open up for bass fishing.
Insane.
So, wild,
hey,
eh? So,
I bid you farewell. I hope you guys have a productive weekend, and I look forward to hearing about it on Monday.
All right.
You take care, buddy.
Peace.
All the best.
See ya.
Thank you for your time. Well, I'll tell you, folks, it is yet another Monday in the books. Thanks so much to Jim, Lawrence, and, of course, Jay, who brings so much to our community, and we truly appreciate their time and their valued insight when it comes to fishing and, of course, the passion that we call angling. Tony, you are 100% right. Not that I would ever suggest that people should smoke cigars, but they do come in handy every once in a while when it comes to beating the bugs. On that note, I want you guys to have yourselves a fantastic week. Make sure that you get out and enjoy this beautiful weather that is coming. When it does, for those who are enjoying warmer temperatures out west, please get out and get some fishing in. Get yourself a nice fish fry dinner Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, Richard, 2 months to Horwood. You're 100% right. And Wednesday, we have another Power Hour. Again, it is going to be featuring the champ, Cody, and I don't want to say his last name because I don't want to butcher it. I respect him far too much, and he's probably going to kick my arse if I screw it up. But we're going to have Cody on talking about MMA fighting and fishing all at the same time. Really look forward to it. You guys have yourself a great week. I'll play the video again just so you guys can reintroduce yourselves to Cody, but we're looking forward to what he has to say on Wednesday. Have yourselves a great week. All the best. Love you all. Take care. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.